Hello everyone, back to you in today's first video. Got a big update for you for today's first video from the GavsWeatherVids.com Spring 2021 forecast. So here we go. I've done 2 months of updates through January and February. We come to the last day of February and the last day of meteorological winter 2021, and it's time to deliver for you our spring forecast. So I'm going to go through the data in a moment. The first thing we'll look at will be the spreadsheet that will, of course, explain which years have been like the leading years for our updates. Terry Scald, my good friend Terry, has got all of those years together for us. And then we will go through the leading analog years, and then I shall give you the GavsWeatherVids.com Spring 2021 forecast. It's proved to be a very, very challenging forecast to get together. So it's proved to be a really, really difficult forecast. But I'm going to do my best for you. Gav's going to do his best to bring you the forecast. And I shall do that in a second. Just say, coming up later on today, we're going to have Gav's Over City Roundup, of course. Always on a Sunday, we'll have your eclectic mix of this and that. And we'll have a live stream at 6 o'clock. No doubt we'll be discussing the spring forecast. We'll show you some summer data in that live stream as well. So it's going to be great, and that's going to be coming up for you from 6 o'clock this evening. Thank you so much to Richard for the spring forecast gift. Fluffy has retired. No, I think Fluffy's gone to LA to earn a fortune as Fluffy the bunny. So Fluffy is relocated to LA's. Fluffy's ditched Gav and gone to pursue a career in Hollywood. But we've got a new gift for you for our spring forecast. So thank you so much to Rich for the fantastic spring forecast gift. I love that little spider. Thank you so much, Rich, for the spring forecast gift. Also going to say thank you so much to Shryan for all of the help through this season of updates, and of course thanks to Terry as well. So thank you to Shryan Bruin and also Terry Scott as well as Richard Trott for all of the help with the spring updates and now the spring forecast as well. Terry, always like a guiding hand on the shoulder. Really helps me so much. So thank you so much to Terry, to Rich, and also to Shryan. Right, we better do this then, haven't we? Bring you the GavsWeatherVids.com Spring 2021 forecast. So as I say, the first thing you're going to look at is a spreadsheet. This one I always feel very bad because I have now time to feature this as much as I would like. But just to explain the spreadsheet, so through the season of spring updates, we've been looking at various things, of course, and what we're doing with the spreadsheet is trying to work out which years within all of these spring updates have been occurring more and more. So we've got every single year going all the way back to 1836, just there. That's as far back as we go with the analogs data, of course. And on the side, we've got all of our relevant criteria. So, for example, we've got December CT, we've got top 20, wettest December, we've got solar cycle phase, we've got January CT, we've got the 20 wettest Januaries, top 20 wettest Januaries, we've got February CT, and Terry's also put in a winter CT as well, based on the February CT projection from last week. The more sort of modern data, kind of like ENSO and QBO, that starts appearing a little bit further on because that was being measured back in the 1800s, of course. So you can see that for the year of 1836, let's take that one on its own. That does not have a single hit. That does not appear one time during our spring updates. 1839 has appeared once, just there. We've got that black X just there. 1845 has appeared twice. So we've got those two X's just there. And 1849 has appeared once as well. However, they are not enough. They're not enough to be featured, really. So the first year that probably reaches the criteria where we would consider featuring it within our forecast is 1868 with 3 hits, 1, 2, and 3, for example. That is one of the leading analog years. So we exclude everything that has either 1 or 2 hits. They haven't got enough, they haven't got enough going for them to be included within our forecast. So let's come down, shall we? And come down to another more recent year. So I want to come down to 1999 this year, just here, because that has featured 4 times. Just there, and just there. So now, of course, we get into like the 20th century, and particularly the second half of the 20th century. Then we're going to start including everything. December CT, top 20 wettest December, solar cycle phase, springs following weak tomorrow La Niñas, for example. January CT, 20 wettest Januaries, the QBO phase, West QBO and West and East QBO phases as well, and February and winter CT as well. So we find 1999 is quite a key year in terms of our spring updates. Right, so at this point I feel very bad because I would like to be able to go through every single year and, go through each individual year and show you just how much time and effort Terry's put into this. But of course, time is always against us with this. I have to get on with the forecast, got to show the date as well. So at this point, I just skip down to here and show you which years are the leading analog years for this year's spring forecast based on our spring updates. Now, we don't have any absolute leading years this time. So sometimes we can get like 5, 6, even 7 hits within an individual, 2 individual years. We have not got that this time, which makes this forecast rather more difficult, actually. So our leading analog years are those that have either 3 or 4 hits. These years, with 3 hits, we've got 2004, we've got 1960, we've got 1906, we've got 1894, and we've got 1968 as well. And then with 4 hits, we've got 1966, we've got 1978, interesting year, we've got 1999, and we've got 2008 as well. So they are our leading analog years, and they are the years that our forecast analogs will be based upon. So it's 2004, it's 1960, it's 1906, it's 1894, it's 1868, it's 2008, it's 1999, 1978, and also 1966. Terry's also put in the CT anomalies with this as well. So you see, many of these springs are quite mild, seemingly. Actually, so most of the marches are mild. I've just got one march that's cold now, which is 1906. But otherwise, most of these marches are like either average or milder than average. April has a few more years that are a bit colder. So April, does have a few years in there that are colder, but probably an equal number that are milder than average. And then we've got May, which comes out as potentially quite a warm month. Actually, there's very few here that are actually colder than average. I've got that one just there, and this one just here as well. 906 is quite a cool spring, but otherwise most of these Mays are actually above average, and some of them quite significantly so. As well. Right, so also precipitation-wise, for England, Wales rainfall, you see that a lot of these springs are actually quite dry. Again, especially so in the Marches. April tends to, be a little bit more split between milder and wetter. And then May, again, generally, often at the time, favouring milder conditions, drier conditions, I should say, as well. So seemingly the analogs you would think the analogs are favouring, reasonably mild and dry spring. But let's have a look at the data. Thank you so much to Terry Scully for getting all of that together. Absolutely incredible, amazing work. Thank you so much, Terry, for that. Thank you so much, my friend. Right, so let's have a look at these springs then. With 3 hits, first of all, we're dealing with springs that have 3 hits, which is going to be the spring of 1868. This was a mild and unsettled spring with high pressure to the south, low pressure to the northwest, winds in from westerly direction. Interestingly, that's preceding a hot summer as well. So the summer of 1868 is a hot summer. So that one starts off mild spring there. Then we got the spring of 1894. I think this is quite a mild sort of spring as well. Low pressure across the west of Europe, higher pressure up towards the northeast. So winds with that would tend to be coming in more from an easterly type direction. A little bit more unsettled, I think, but probably quite mild. This is quite a cold spring. It's 1906. Again, this one has 3 hits within our within our spring updates. So this one has a mid-Atlantic ridge with a trough of low pressure to our east. Winds again coming in from a northerly direction in the spring of 1906. Spring of 1960, again having 3 hits. This one with a Scandinavian high and quite a lot of easy winds. That's quite a warm and dry spring, or a mild and dry spring as well. And then we've got 2004, which is also quite a warm and dry sort of spring, although it does have a cold first half to March. But again, that's quite an easterly spring, and there's quite a lot of dry and mild weather in with that one as well. So that's it for the years that have 3 hits. What about the years that have 4 hits within our analog years? Well, we've got 1966. This one is a mild and unsettled spring. It has high pressure to our southwest. It has low pressure to our northwest. Winds are in from a west or southwest direction. Generally quite a mild spring, generally quite unsettled. Spring 1978 is really quite unsettled, with low pressure through the country, higher pressure up towards the northeast. It has quite a cold April in 1978. May's not too bad, and March is reasonably mild as well, but it does have quite a cold April in 1978. Overall, an unsettled spring, really quite a wet spring, and a fair amount of high pressure within the northern latitudes. Follows a teaser winter, of course. Then we've got the spring of 1999. This one has quite a potent cold snap in April, but otherwise it's a relatively dry and warm spring, really. And it is a bit on the unsettled side, but it's not too bad. It's a relatively warm spring. And then we've got 2008 with 4 hits. This has quite a potent cold spell from the middle of March to the middle of April, with lower pressure pushed southwards. Winds tend to be in from an easterly and northeasterly direction. It does have a very warm May, though, in 2008. Right, so let's put all of that together then, shall we? So this is how all Marches combined are looking, with 3 hits or more in the GavsWeatherVids.com spring forecast methodology. So for March, we tend to have blocking up to the north. We tend to have lower pressure across the west of Europe. We tend to be sending a jet stream southwards. So the Marches could be quite unsettled across western parts of Europe. Could be quite wet with spells of rain. And a bit of a cold signal as well, actually, with those Marches. There is a bit of blocking involved. So with the orientation of this trough, you could send some colder air into that trough of low pressure with these Marches. All Aprils combined, following 3 or more, looks like that, with, again, low pressure off the Atlantic, this time more Atlantic based. So there is like a blocking signal still for these Aprils, actually, but this is probably milder and a little bit more westerly. So March has a little bit of cold, potentially is unsettled. April is still unsettled, but it's probably relatively milder, even though there is like a bit of a blocking signal. And then this is how all Mays combined are looking, with 3 or more, tending to ridge high pressure through the north and west of Europe. So clearly May is the most settled month of the 3, and offers quite a lot of, quite a lot of dry weather. Seemingly would be quite warm as well. I would have thought. I don't see why not. Why wouldn't be pulling up light wind from a southeast direction. So after an unsettled March-April, we go into a warmer, drier pattern for May, with our analog year scoring 3 or more. All springs combined, scoring 3 or more, look like that. So generally quite unsettled springs, particularly so as we've explained for like March and April, much less so for May. Does have a bit of a blocking signal as well, particularly evident in March, but also there in April too. Right, so let's narrow things down though, to just look at those years that are scoring 4 or more with our leading analog years. So now we just have with this 1966, 1978, 1999, and 2008. So for our top 4 leading analog years scoring 4 or more, all marches combined have a mid-Atlantic ridge going towards Greenland, lower pressure across the west of Europe, jet stream being pushed southwards a little bit as well. So still a unsettled signal, still perhaps a rather cool signal as well. I would say cool rather than cold. I would not say that is a desperately cold scenario, but it is quite unsettled. So March probably favouring a rather unsettled and relatively cool, but not overly cold type outcome. This is how temperature anomalies are looking for March in our leading analog year scoring 4 or more. No particular signal really. So could be mild, could be cold, probably a 50-50 split. I would say probably relatively mild, though, actually, based on that scenario. I don't think that's a particularly cold scenario, despite the mid-Atlantic ridge for March. You do need quite an appreciable level of blocking to get proper cold in March, and we don't really see that there. So I would have thought near normal, maybe a little bit on the mild side, but unsettled. Let's have a look at the precipitation anomaly for March with our leading analog year scoring 4 or more. And yes, we see it coming out wetter than average with these Marches. It's how all Aprils combined are looking with our leading analog year scoring 4 hits on our forecast methodology. Still unsettled, still a blocking signal, interestingly, up towards Greenland. But again, similar to like the 3 or more analog, it's not overly cold because it looks rather Atlantic driven. The low pressure of jet stream just far enough north to be fending off anything too cold. So again, probably relatively mild, I would have thought with that. But also very unsettled, potentially quite unsettled. But the actual analog does come out a little bit colder than average, though. So for the analog, like it is coming out slightly below average with the temperature, and that's probably because 1978 was quite a cold April, and also 2008 did have some appreciably cold weather in the first half. So yeah, April may be a little bit on the colder side, but really I would say not overly cold really on the scenario with the low pressure off the Atlantic Ocean. Precipitation wise, looks like that for April with our 4 leading analog years. Drier than average to the north. I've got blocking, wetter than average over to the south of the country. So you can see we could be pulling in light winds from an east or northeasterly direction. I would say this is quite a weak signal, though. Just have these 4 years scoring 4. We haven't got anything really leading at like 6 or 7, which is something that I do like to see. And then May, look at this, we go into a much drier, warmer pattern for May, so we tend to get an area of high pressure events sitting over UK and Western Europe as well. Low pressure tends to be out in the Atlantic. So for May, very much favouring a drier and a warmer type month on both the 3 or more and also the leading year scoring 4 hits. Both times we sort of favour a warmer, drier pattern for May. Temperature anomalies. The temperature anomaly for May with our leading 4 analog years coming out above average. So quite a mild or warm May is anticipated there with that high pressure. No signal for precipitation with these leading 4 years for May. But I would say with high pressure, dominating weather, you would expect quite a dry month as well. Dry and warm May is favoured. And this is the overall analog for spring, for all springs combined with our leading 4 years scoring 4 hits. So looks unsettled, doesn't it, with low pressure off the Atlantic into the north and west of Europe. A little bit of a blocking signal to our north, but just generally looking quite Atlantic driven, quite unsettled, not overly cold either, really, I don't think. We're not favouring with these analogs a particularly cold spring. Out of the 3, I would have thought April perhaps has the greatest potential to be colder, but even then, it's not particularly strongly favoured to be a cold month. The temperature anomaly for these springs, so this is all springs combined for our 4 leading analog years, scoring 4 hits. Again, no particular signal for temperature anomaly, but I would have thought a relatively mild spring is most likely, really, and quite weak for precipitation as well. But I would have thought maybe a little bit on the unsettled side, if anything. A lot of those, particularly for March and April, seem to involve a fair amount of low pressure, and then we go into something significantly drier for May, which of course could offset the more unsettled weather that we get in March and in April too. Right, so that's gone through the data for you. So now I suppose I better bring you the forecast, hadn't I? And it's a very tricky forecast because we're coming out of a teaser winter, which does make things a little bit difficult. And we have, as I say, I've been saying we haven't got like 1 or 2 real leading years that have like 6 or 7 hits, which is something that I like to see. We haven't got that this time, so it's a little bit difficult. I'm going to say a rather changeable spring is most likely. I think we will see changeable weather, particularly through March and through April as well. I think we will keep trying to get back into that sort of colder sort of scenario with the blocking that we have through the winter, and that's particularly likely earlier on in the spring. So I would say there's probably going to be more cold snaps, through March, possibly into April as well, and that would be particularly affecting more northern areas. At times we might get some cold weather down into the south, but I think for more southern areas, actually, it's probably likely to be relatively mild, even through March and April as well. But there may be cold snaps, fleetingly coming and going down in the south. But in the north, I would think there is the potential that we might find ourselves, trying to get back to that blocking pattern that we had in the winter. And if we do, then we could get a couple of really quite potent cold snaps, actually, for the north. And that's particularly likely early on in the spring through March and possibly into April as well. Quite unsettled, I think, through this period. So swinging between milder and colder periods through March and April, and drier and more settled and unsettled spells as well. So we probably come out quite unsettled, particularly in more northern areas with above average rainfall through March and April. Down in the south, again, there will be periods of drier, quieter weather in between more unsettled conditions. So typically changeable, really. Nothing like we had last spring. You remember last spring was absolutely vintage for dry and warm weather, just going on week after week after week. I think this will be a much more changeable type spring. But that said, I think we will get a fair amount of pleasant weather, particularly so down in the south. Now, you'll notice I haven't spoken about May. I think when we get to May, we do start then quite generally favouring like a switch to something drier and warmer. So the best weather this spring, I would have thought, for a dry, warm perspective anyway, happens later on. When we get into May, we possibly go even into like an early summer type pattern with quite a lot of dry and warm weather possible, I think, during May. But before then, have a lot of unsettled weather, or quite a lot of changeable weather to get through during March and April. So March, April favouring more unsettled conditions, but with some drier periods in between. Some colder interludes as well, more particularly for the north, as we try to get back into that pattern we have through the winter. But a lot of the time, that I would have thought being unsuccessful, but probably enough to pull the cold air down to the northern half of the country anyway. Times through March and April. Occasionally that cold weather might get down in the south, but I think down in the south it's much more likely to be relatively milder, but still quite changeable there with rain, unsettled and settled spells alternating. And then we all sort of settle into a much drier, warmer type pattern with high pressure dominating as we go into May. Averaging it all out, I would have thought for England and Wales, probably we come out with a milder than average season, so I'd imagine the CT is likely to be above average for this spring. So yeah, I would say maybe a degree above the 81 to 2010 average. For Scotland, I would say there, it's much more likely to be closer to average, and it may be like slightly below or slightly above, but within half a degree, let's say, of the 81 to 2010 average for the north. So for the north, we have cooler temperatures for the south, probably a rather mild than average spring. Precipitation-wise, northern areas probably on the wetter side, so a little bit wetter than average for northern areas, probably near normal for rainfall, with drier and drier and wetter periods alternating down in the south. And then we get that more general switch from most places to drier and warmer weather, if the forecast is correct, as we get through into May. It's been a very difficult forecast to get together. In terms of snow, by weight, so I think probably a little bit above average for snow for northern areas early on in the spring, as those cold interludes come through. Probably near normal or even a little bit below average for snowfall down in the south. And again, for like frost, again, probably occurring with more frequency than average in the north, a little bit less so down in the south. It's been a very, very difficult forecast to get together. It is delivered with low confidence due to the fact that we haven't got like 1 or 2 real leading years that have like 6 or 7 hits within our methodology. So it's quite a low confidence forecast. There are other reasons for that as well. We're not sure what's going on with the QBO. We're not sure what's going to happen with La Nina. We're rather unsure this time, you know, what effect the teaser winter has. So how frequently we will try to get back to that colder pattern. If this had been like a proper cold winter, then I would be going for a cold spring. But I don't think this is like, although it has been cold in the north though, but I don't think this has been like a proper cold winter. Really, I think it's much more of a teaser type winter. That does pose some problems as well. So these are the best that I can do for you. I'm going to leave you with our summary. That's the GavsWeatherVids Spring 2021 forecast done and dusted for you. So I'll leave you with a summary in a moment. Just to say that, of course, we will evaluate this forecast when we get to the beginning of the summer. You know, we'll see how we did. We always evaluate our forecast at GavsWeatherVids. You never cherry pick anything. So however this comes out, you know, whatever happens with this spring, then we'll see. We don't change the forecast as we go along. It's not like a rolling forecast that we'll update as we go through the season. We just deliver the forecast, let it sit there, and that's it. So you know, we'll see, won't we, when we get to the beginning of June, how the forecast has gone. But that's about the best that I can do for you in rather difficult circumstances. Talking of evaluation, we will be evaluating the winter forecast as well, very shortly, probably in a week or so's time. So I think we've done quite well for the GavsWeatherVids winter 2021 forecast. I'm quite pleased with how things have gone mess, but we'll find out more with that. When we come to evaluate winter forecasts early in March. And, of course, the long-range bandwagon now will be rolling on. We'll roll on with the long-range bandwagon right the way through the next 3 months with summer updates. And the first summer update will be coming up for you next weekend. I made you a little sneak peek, actually, for the summer one day this week. But the first proper update, summer 2021, will be coming up for you next Sunday, a week today. So that'll be quite exciting. Right, big thank you to Richard, to Shryan, and also to Terry as well. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is going to be, just say we've got GavsWeatherVids Sunny Roundup coming up a little bit later on, and they'll be live streaming after 6 o'clock. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is our forecast summary for spring 2021. So here it is. For the north, we're saying temperatures around the 81 to 2010 average, slightly wetter than average. Spring is likely to. More cold snaps likely in March and April, but also milder periods, turning generally drier and warmer for May. For England and Wales, and that's Scotland Northern Line, for England and Wales, southern half of the country, we're saying the spring is likely to be around 1 Celsius, milder than the 81 to 2010 average. Rainfall should be around the average, with drier and wetter periods alternating. Cool and mild spells are likely to alternate during March and April, so less of a cold signal in the south than we have further north, but there could be a couple of cold outbreaks, even for more southern areas within that. And then a warm and dry May is possible, and you know, quite a nice sort of summer-like May. It is possible, no more than that, as this is quite a low forecast with confidence. So that's it then. That brings to an end our spring updates. We've delivered the spring 2021 forecast. All that remains is to say thank you so much, everybody, for watching and for enjoying the spring updates. We'll keep updated about Fluffy. Of course, Fluffy is in LA now, I think. Fluffy's got a new home in the hills of Hollywood. And Richard will keep me informed about what's happening with Fluffy. And I shall keep all of you informed as well. Let's just close out with the spring forecast gift. There it is. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for like an incredible couple of months of spring updates. I hope you enjoyed them. That's a spring forecast delivered for you. And yeah, so I'm going to close it out now. I'll see you later on for the live stream at 6 o'clock. Don't forget to check out GavsWeatherVids Sunny Roundup. But for the spring 2021 forecast, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.